Hello, and welcome to yet another interesting episode of the program Back to Farm, a program designed to showcase the opportunities that is hidden in agriculture. My name is Joshua Ishaya, your usual host. Today on Back to Farm, our focus is on the 5th edition of President Muhammadu Buhari's Scorecard, Strides and Achievements in the Nigerian agricultural sector from 2015 to date, under the stewardship of Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abakar as the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. The Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development is responsible for developing the agricultural sector of the Nigerian economy with a view to growing the sector, driving income growth, accelerate food and nutrition security, generating employment and transforming Nigeria into a leading global food market through the commodity value chain concept of agricultural transformation agenda. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is a ministry of the Nigerian government that regulates agricultural research, agriculture and natural resources, forestry and veterinary research all over Nigeria. Established in 1966. The ministry has the responsibility of optimizing agriculture and integrating rural development for the transformation of Nigerian economy, with a view to attaining food security and positioning Nigeria as a net food exporter for socio-economic development. Unveiling of the scorecard by the Agriculture and Rural Development Minister, Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abubakar, started with a welcome note by the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Muhammad. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is saddled with the responsibility of generating employment, promoting the production and supply of raw materials to agro-industries, promote market access to ensure food security, and drive economic diversification for sustainable growth and employment to lead the development of Nigerian agricultural sector and achieve a hunger poverty-free nation.
We produce what we eat and eat what we produce. This is what Mr. President said. And we have been doing that. Starting with the mandate of the ministry, as you can see, is really to improve food production, nutrition, job creation, wealth creation, reduce poverty within the agri sector. Now, the agri sector really form the basis of any economy. You can't tell me there is one single developed country in the world that has not started with agricultural base, whether or not they have the land to produce. We have the Asian tigers, for example. Some of them do not have the land, but they made sure in one way or another they have food security, because food security is what? Is general security. Facilitation of rural socio-economic setting. Our mission to manage the agricultural sector through multi-stakeholder engagement, to develop commodity value chains and promote agro-industrial development for ensuring food security and driving economic diversification needed for sustainable inclusive growth. Then our vision, where do we see Nigeria in the future in terms of agri? To lead the development Nigerian agricultural sector to achieve a hunger and poverty-free nation, which is part of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, before moving, let me say the government also has the 9 priority areas, and agri is number 2. That is, achieve agriculture and food and nutrition security. That's why we are.
The President Muhammadu Buhari's administration since 2015 till date in agriculture has been able to come up with policies by approving the National Agricultural Technology and Innovation Policy (NAPTIP) 2022 to 2027 in May 2022 to guide implementation of programs and projects to ensure food security, employment generation, and wealth creation in the country. A driver of the policies and strategies in agricultural sector is the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria Amendment Act 2021, which is now a law. As a result of this law, ARCN is currently undertaking the restructuring, repositioning of the Nigerian agricultural research systems for increasing agricultural research development.
The ministry has achieved so much with the help and intervention of Mr. President because of his passion in agriculture. From 2015 to date, I will take you through to what we have done. Starting with policies. Agri policies have started since the 60s. The current one, which is NATIP, is a synthesis of all these policies from the 60s all the way coming up until the last one of 2021, which is the promotion, agricultural promotion policy. Today we have the NATIP, that is the National Agricultural Technology and Innovation Policy 2022 to take us through to 2027. To guide the implementation of programs and projects to ensure food security, employment generation, and wealth creation in the country. Now, everything is digital these days. So we are practicing smart agriculture, and that's where the technology comes in. That is where the innovation comes in. You cannot continue to do business as usual. Starting with the fertilizer policy, the National Fertilizer Quality Control Policy 2019, which was launched on the 3rd of March 2020 to ensure that we have good quality fertilizers in the country. Because we always say, you reap what you sow. If you sow bad seed or apply bad fertilizer, you will definitely cultivate, harvest bad product or produce. Along the policies, we have our research institute, and also we have focus in research and innovation. And we have the Agricultural Research Institute Council of Nigeria, ARCN. Just last year, also there was an amendment law to strengthen the institution. The ministry has 16 research institutions and 16 colleges of agriculture. Together they work to make sure that we continue to research on how to increase and improve in agricultural production. And also just last week we launched the National Animal Identification and Traceability System, NAITS, to facilitate animal traceability. This is a policy that has been in the waiting for a long time, but because we have to continue to improve, we made sure that any sector of the agri, whether it's cropping, whether it's livestock, fisheries, have the policies, the framework that are needed to drive that particular subsector. So that's the one that we just launched last week. And then also there is just recently from the National Economic Council, the introduction of nutrition department, particularly in this ministry, but also we identified other relevant ministries that will be included in that to have nutrition department. Having food is one thing, but having a balanced diet is another. Policies continue. Mr. President launched the special agro-industrial processing zone last month. This is really a game changer. The SAPZ, for short, will not only ensure food and nutrition security, but also will create millions of jobs, will create wealth, reduce poverty, will also promote industrialization. What we are going to do with the SAPZ is to have industrial cities, if you will, where in one SAPZ, you will have the industries, you will have hospitals, you will even have schools, you will have residences. Around the SAPZ will be clusters of smallholder farmers especially that will be able to bring in their produce into the processing zone. So it's like one-stop shopping center. This is something that will really change the face of agro industry in the country. The green imperatives. We cannot definitely, with a population of 200 million Nigerians growing at a rate of 3.5, to continue to be farming in a rudimentary manner. So the Green Imperatives is a project that started about 4 years ago. We are able, by the grace of God and the help of Mr. President, to come to the end of it. We were in Brazil about 6 weeks ago. And the whole objective is to make sure the 10,000 tractors, 50,000 small equipment will start the shipment very soon because we have already written the drawdown. So this is a project that has come to the end. And I'm excited about that also because the ratio of farmers to tractor in this country is really low. And this is not the only project that has to do with mechanization or tractorization. We are working with other partners internationally and nationally. In fact, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be launching some kind of tractor cell where it will be a PPP arrangement, farmers and the government, and of course the financial institution, specifically our Bank of Agriculture. The national gender policy. Climate change is a phenomenon that affects everyone, but women bear the brunt the most. And women are the ones that are part of, a bigger segment of women consist of the smallholder farmers. 70% of our food is being produced by the smallholder farmers. And of the smallholder farmers, 70% are women. So we have to take women into consideration, starting with policy design, development, implementation. We make sure in this policy, women are carried along right from the beginning so that it will be an all-inclusive agricultural transformation for this country. We also launched the animal disease control. This was approved by the Federal Executive Council about 3 to 4 weeks ago. It's a revised disease control. Of course, we had one before. Again, it's all to make sure that the ministry is on top of things when it comes to animal disease control. Why? Because of the new policy of the One Health, we realize that there are a lot of zoonotic diseases that can go from animals to humans. A case in point is the current COVID. I said current because we still have pockets of COVID. So we must make sure that animals' health is being well taken care of.
The Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development under President Muhammadu Buhari has been able to achieve the concession of 17 silos, public-private partnership on arrangement with over 2 billion naira generated. The release of 70,000 metric tons of assorted foods, commodities during COVID-19 outbreak to the vulnerable populace. The establishment of 33 silos with a total capacity of 1.336 million metric tons, just to mention a few.
We have established 33 silos with a total capacity of 1,336 metric thousand tons of grains. The purpose of maintaining silos is to make sure that in times of emergency, a country has some grains or food to fall back on. Of the 33, we have concession 17. About 8 silos have been damaged during the NSAS and also some climate change issues like gully erosion and the rest of those. Graciously, we asked Mr. President and he approved an intervention, and we are currently about ready to start the rehabilitation of those 8 silos. Just to tell you how much Mr. President has done in terms of maintaining food availability in our silos, when we came, I think there was only about 19,000 metric tons of grain, assorted grains in the silos. I think from 2015 or so. Before the outbreak of COVID, Mr. President has graciously approved and we have stocked our silos to over 90,000, actually 98,000 metric tons. As if he knew. Then what happened in 2020? Boom, like a shot in the back, coronavirus hit. Everybody was locked down. You can't go to the farm, you can't produce anything, you can't do anything. And that was when he approved the release of 70,000 metric tons of grain. What do you think would have happened if we were still at 19,000? Chaos. Then after the distribution of the 70,000, again, we requested for restocking and was restocked to about 104,000 metric tons. And then we released again, some months back, 42,000 metric tons. As I speak with you, Humanitarian Affairs is releasing or distributing about 12,000 metric tons to flood victims and other vulnerable Nigerians. We still have additional stock and we will be restocking again, but we have to make sure we stabilize the market. And so silos stocking is not just for food. Emergency also include price stabilization, which we have done because as part of that 42,000, we have released about 5,000 metric tons to poultry farmers, maize for feed. So this is how you make sure that you have your reserve. As you can see, our silo complex here in Abuja, which we have just started a test run. Again, Mr. President approved additional funding to complete 10 large silos around the country. This is one of them that is being test run. This is our silos where we keep our grains. This is during the distribution, just so you can understand. This is in Benin, where we have special, apart from silos, we also have special warehouses where we keep our grains. We also have aggregation centers. These aggregation centers also we have built several, and is a partnership between public and private, 60-40 from the government. But the objective eventually is to have the private sector to own this. They will pay back the government. It's all in an effort to make sure we maintain food security. So these are the 17 of them have been successfully completed and handed over to off-takers. This is the restocking, releasing of food commodities, what I have mentioned earlier. We are currently still releasing some food, humanitarian. And one might ask, two releases. We release sometimes the ministry itself, and then other times give to humanitarian ministry to also do the release. This is what I have mentioned, the 5,000 metric tons that has been released to poultry farmers out of the 42,000 that has been released and being released. This is the bagging of the grains in our storage areas assorted. That was in FCT, by the way.
Also, the Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development Minister under President Muhammadu Buhari has registered 6,396,535 farmers nationwide and still counting. The ministry has also distributed 920 metric tons of improved seed, distributed 14,785 agricultural machines, distributed 67,000 liters of agrochemical to 1,397,469,000 farmers nationwide.
The ministry also, of course, being a Ministry of Agriculture, we do register farmers. So far we have registered 6,396,535 farmers. Registration is ongoing because every day you do have people that decide to come into farming, especially now that farming is no longer just for food production, but it's a full-time business, and we'll come to that later. We have also distributed about 920 metric tons of improved seeds. We have the Nigeria Seed Council, and their function is to make sure we have good quality seeds, whether being produced here or coming into the country for planting. Again, it goes back to you reap what you sow. We have distributed agricultural machines, over 14,000 of those. We have also distributed 67,000 liters of agrochemicals and to about 1,397,000 farmers nationwide. These are some of the distribution centers we have flagged off in different parts of the state. Actually, in all the 6 geopolitical zones, we do this distribution. Some will be flagged off by me, by the Minister of State, by the Permanent Secretary, and other directors of the ministry. The same thing here is also some of the distribution. Some time back we had issues with a particular disease that affect tomato. Is called Tuta absoluta, and you can see at the back of those jerry cans are packages or rather kits for the detection and management of this particular disease. And on the other side, you can see other inputs that are also being distributed. The picture shows a part of Jigawa. This is rollout of distribution to farmers in Kaduna. We distribute all kinds of machineries and chemicals, as you can see, like I said, in different places across the states of the Federation. You can see from rice mill, portable rice mills, to threshers, millers, you name it, they are there. Of course, we provide rural infrastructure, which includes what you can see, some tanks. We'll get to the rural part later.
The administration of President Muhammadu Buhari and the Ministry of Agriculture has embarked on massive infrastructural projects and rural development. It has constructed 1,460 kilometer earth roads and 1,527 kilometers of asphalt, rural electrification of 42,729 number of solar street lights, installed 34 number of 500 kVA transformers, installed. Borehole projects are not left behind. An installation of 2,861,000 motorized power boreholes and hand pump have been installed at Lely Parakoi, Oyo local government area of Oyo State, Bage community, Ikorodu, Lagos State, 12 mini earth dams, 117 water harvesting structures, 12 rehabilitated windmill powered borehole projects to improve agricultural production.
This is a distribution of certified seeds and agrochemicals. Also, the ministry is always doing this to support especially smallholder farmers. We work with medium-holder farmers and, of course, the large-scale commercial farmers in terms of providing them with technical expertise, extension service, research information that is being disseminated. Coming to the rural development is a very big component of the ministry. A lot of these activities are taking place in the rural areas, and we engage in building roads, water supply, electricity, building of markets. We have so far constructed earth roads of over 1,000 kilometers, 1,460 kilometers, and also asphalt 1,527. We have provided electrification, about 42,720 solar street light, and install 34 number 500 kVA transformers in rural areas. Installation of about 2,861 motorized solar pumps, boreholes, and hand pumps, and also the construction of 133 rural markets. This is very critical, very crucial. So, wider roads so that farmers can bring their produce out to the market. Why build the market? Sometimes the market may be too far away from where some of these farmers are, may not have the capacity to be able to travel to go, or may even cause what we call post-harvest losses. So construction of markets is a very integral part of the rural development so that people can come close to the market from where they harvest their crops and be able to sell. And that in itself also is a way of creating economic centers, economic hubs. Again, this is construction of rural roads and culverts. Rural water supply. We do provide rural water supply for drinking, for irrigation, for animals. You will see that later. These are motorized boreholes at Bage community, Ikorodu, Lagos, and we do that in every part of the country. Here, Plateau, Ibadan, Oyo, and all that. This is a water treatment plant at Aba. So we are engaged in all of this to improve the rural life. Electrification. This is self-explanatory. Next. Renewable energy. This is also to show we are conscious of the climate change. We do renewable energy. We'll also see windmills. These are all ways that we want to reduce emission. Our NDC, the nationally determined contribution that we pledged during the Paris Agreement in 2016. So the ministry is also conscious of that. And that is part of the smart to do this year very aggressively, especially because of the flood. We'll come to that later also. So we do construct dams and we rehabilitate so that they can be used for irrigation. Some of them even for drinking water. It depends on which part of the rural area you are. We do construct water harvesting structures. And you will see again when it comes to issue of flooding, these water harvesting structures do retain some of the flood water so that you can use it positively after the damage that it has caused. So it's not all lost. So these are some of the earth dams, some of the water harvesting structures. This is in Katsina.
Nigeria is a major hub of animal consumption in West Africa. It is also one of the largest livestock raising countries. To meet the ever-increasing domestic demand and access to the flourishing markets, President Muhammadu Buhari administration through the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has introduced sustainable livestock development and national livestock transformation.
Of course, agric is crop, livestock, fisheries, and whatever that comes in between. We have the NLTP, National Livestock Transformation Plan. Again, this is something that this present administration developed to improve the livestock subsector of this country. And let me also report and thank Mr. President for returning the NLTP under the direct control of the ministry. It has been here and there, but now is a plan that is under the direct control of the ministry. You will see in livestock, of course, we are talking about extensive grazing or limited grazing. So, I mean, extensive grazing is harder on both the livestock and the pastoralists. So, when we start thinking of some kind of restriction, not restriction in the, not really ranching, but reserves, grazing reserves. Grazing reserves are large. You can roam around within grazing reserves and still not be going from end to end. Okay, so the pasture, I want to talk about that. It's very, very important. It's all about taking these animals to where they can graze when there is no, during the rainy season, you know, they can graze almost everywhere. During dry season, they have to move where they said for greener pasture. With the reserves, we have the control of actually irrigating and producing pasture for the animals and can still roam within the grazing reserve. So you can see that we have established this in about 16 states to promote the production and processing in the country. Also, moving to dairy. Under livestock, you have different also subsectors. So we have the dairy development also. We have, again, in different states, we have centers in 12 states of the Federation to strengthening of dairy cooperatives and provision of dairy equipment. Again, this is all being done under the livestock department, animal husbandry, if you will. Livestock breed improvement, we engage in even artificial insemination and all other forms of making sure that we improve our livestock subsector. Grazing reserves. We have a number of grazing reserves in the country. Under the NLTP, you have grazing reserves. Now, there is a new program to complement the NLTP, the grazing reserve, and it's called LPRES, National Livestock Productivity Resilience Support Plan. This is, again, like a subsector in the grazing reserve. You can have an LPRES in a grazing reserve, or you can have it as a standalone. State will write to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and request, express interest to be included in these programs, and they are. And they are government and state. The LPRES is a new program that is now being financed by over 500 million US dollars. This will be launched very soon. The memo is on its way to the Federal Executive Council. Of course, NLTP is a running program already, but LPRES, everything has been signed, ready to go. Also under that, we have the issue of conflict, farmers' hardest conflict. These are all taken care of under the NLTP and LPRES. Next week, on the 12th, not next week, next month, precisely on the 12th of December, we'll have a regional summit on farmer harder conflict. And this is to strengthen interaction, relationship between these two groups. It is impossible for one group to exist without the other. So the ministry is doing everything possible under various programs to make sure that we have harmony between the two groups. Here we have the National Breed Improvement Program that we do, sensitization and training of artificial insemination, which I have mentioned, service providers in Kano, Bauchi, Oyo, Oshun, and Adamawa State, and also for tagging and all that stuff is there. We are pushing to make sure our livestock sector is growing at the pace and rate that we can to support the population of this country.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development also launched National Animal Identification and Traceability System, NITAS, and grazing reserves for Nigeria.
This is the traceability, which was just launched last week. There you can see me with the SO of SO Nipe. We launched this. This is really a program, again, that is exciting. You can actually trace right there on the dashboard, because each of the animals will be tagged with a chip that can tell you where that animal is at any given time. This is really an improvement. So whether an animal is stolen, you will be able to trace where it is. Pasture development, this is where we are also, this is the flag of at the, I believe, Pycon Quarry Grazing Reserve, where we are planting some kind of special grass, really, that is fast growing and highly nutritious for the animals. This will really reduce, again, like I said, the issue of traversing long distances and running into the very conflict that we are trying to avoid. These are all some of the equipment, the seeds that we are distributing to grazing reserve. This is actually an L-Press center within a grazing reserve of Pycon Quarry here outside Abuja. Continuous development of grazing reserve, of course, provide areas for water. You can see Gombe, Borno, and all of those areas. We do have also primary animal handling centers. Again, because of the issue of zoonotic diseases, we work with our vet doctors and technologists to make sure animals are healthy.
Before the coming of President Muhammadu Buhari, most chicken meat and eggs produced are in low import, low yielding system with indigenous poultry, which is largely caused by inadequate nutrition and access to the supplementary feeds. The narrative has changed today. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture has distributed improved indigenous breeds, feeds, poultry equipment to smallholder farmers nationwide.
Smallholder poultry development. This is rehabilitation of cottage poultry processing facilities. We launched one in Abuja not too long ago, and we have several of these constructed across the country. Distribution of improved indigenous feed. So just as we do with crop for human consumption, the same thing with animals. We have to make sure whatever we are feeding those animals is really good from good seeds, whether it's poultry or large ruminant or small ruminant, is all part of the planning. And it's always nationwide. Construction of primary animal health care centers, all part of the veterinary. This is the veterinary department. The one before, we are dealing with the animal husbandry department. Of course, they work together, producers and caregivers. We have 19 live bird market constructed. One of the reasons for this, because of the avian influenza, we make sure that it's well under control, is being supervised by professionals that can detect and contain, if necessary, any possible disease outbreak. And then, construction of those who have done that. 28 number renovated abattoirs are very important. Abattoirs, the veterinary department is doing that. Vaccination, absolutely important. About 15 million, over 15 million really have been vaccinated against transboundary animal diseases. Our borders are porous, so animals just can just cross without even knowing, mix perhaps with some of our animals. By the time they return back into their country, whether it's Cameroon or Niger, maybe something has happened. So we have to be on top of our game to make sure that we continuously vaccinate our animals. Okay, spraying of chemicals over that many hectares, as you can see. This is construction of the animal health care centers. This is in Calabar, as we have done in other states. Okay, this is the lab bird market we have talked about. Okay, spray of koala birds. We do use, of course, aircraft to spray transboundary migratory pests. That include birds, includes grasshoppers and other pests that are coming across from other countries.
Nigerian fisheries and aquaculture have faced high costs of input, use of unimproved breeds in aquaculture, and need for improved access to finance as main obstacles, hampering expansion of the country's aquaculture subsector. However, the President Muhammadu Buhari administration has turned the tide around by increasing fish production from 865 metric ton in 2015 to 1,364 metric ton.
Fish production. So here we are with our fish department, fisheries department. So far you can see from where we are, 2015, 865 metric tons to over 1,365 metric tons. That is an improvement quite a bit in the fish. We are still working hard to increase based on our demand and whatever gap that we may have. Establishment of fish clusters, distribution of fish input, licensing of from 84 to 170 fishing trawlers have been licensed to cover up the gap. Training of fish farmers. We do have the Oceanography and Marine Research Institute. This is our ship. It's big, can go out in the sea for up to about 90 days for research in various issues of marine and oceanography research. This is the monitoring station so that we can monitor what is happening. We have just acquired 6 additional trawlers, which we did not have. So this is also an improvement. Of course, we do the artificial and also lakes. There are all kinds of ways to improve and to help fishery farmers. We have canoes that we construct and also assist fishery farmers with.
According to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, wheat production has been so dismal for decades, as the country only produces about 2% of all wheat consumed. To change this narrative, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture has secured $8,134 million from African Development Bank.
Wheat production. Wheat is a very essential grain. We know that. We do have gap in our wheat production. But again, we just recently also launched the wheat strategy document. That's for the production of wheat. Already we have secured 134 million US dollars to boost wheat production in the country. But one of the things is we're also working with private sector to make sure that we produce enough wheat. Currently we are facing some issues, of course, because of the Russian-Ukraine war. We do business with them to cover up the gap in our wheat production.
President Muhammadu Buhari's ban on rice importation has discouraged importation and encouraged local production through constructing 10 large-scale integrated rice mills with 320 metric ton capacity per day and construction of agri-businesses, incubation centers.
Rice value chain, this is where I'm talking about the rice mills. There are 10 rice mills currently under construction. We just received additional intervention to complete them. One, this one you are seeing here is being already tested. This is the one at Kwali. And we have in Kano, we have in Niger, I think some of the states are there. We will be finishing those Ekiti, Ogun, Bayelsa, FCT, Adamawa, Jigawa. There are 10 of them across the country for the rice value chain, that is. Agri incubation centers, agribusiness. I mentioned earlier that agriculture is all about business as well as food production. There is tremendous amount of resources, which is the land. We have the geopolitical, ecological zones that we can plant anything, any time of the year. So we are building these incubation centers across the country to train youth and women in the business of agriculture. Training of extension workers. The ministry has been training a number of extension workers and deployed to the 36 states of the Federation through the ADPs, that is the Agricultural Development Program. So the extension is very important. Our research result must be communicated to the farmers. Application of fertilizer, planting of certain special seeds, all is the work of extension to teach the farmers what to do, how to do, and to gain the best out of their investment.
Majority of Nigerian farmers face lack of fertilizer as the major factor that hinders agriculture production. The reason for low access to fertilizer has changed since the inception of President Muhammadu Buhari by introducing the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative in 2015. Agriculture remains the largest sector in Nigeria, contributing an average of 24% to the nation's GDP. Through expectation to increase this figure, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture established the National Integrated Export Control Plan, Agro-Export.
The Presidential Fertilizer Initiative, this is to improve fertilizer in the country. In 2015, it was established, in 2016, through which a number of plants increased in the country from 8 to about 200. Now, as a result of the intervention, the annual fertilizer production rose from 300,000 metric tons per year to about 7 million metric tons. And then the National Fertilizer Quality Control also has been doing its job to make sure, again, the fertilizer is of good quality. Export of agricultural commodities. We have cash crops. If we know we have cocoa, a lot of you know that. Shrimps and hibiscus. Some of you may not know that, but it's also a big honor. We just exported containers of hibiscus to Mexico, and this is after a stoppage for some time, but this current administration was able to resuscitate and continue with the business.
Generally, the importance of research in Nigeria cannot be overemphasized. Its importance ranges from introducing new ideas, getting the best information, and solving this problem. Nigerian agriculture sector, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, through Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, has launched the first agricultural television station and other extension teaching materials for outreach centers.
Agricultural Research Council, this is our research council which is supervising our research institutions and colleges. We are, of course, we have a lot of researchers that are constantly innovating, producing the best seeds, producing the best medicines and inputs for the agricultural sector. And this is all across the agri sector, whether it's crops, livestock, fisheries, you name it. And also recently, the ARCN also just established its own television and radio specifically for information to farmers. This is quite an achievement under this particular administration. We just talked about exporting hibiscus, cocoa, and the rest of them. So you can see how it has been going. 2021, In fact, in just the last reporting by NBS, the agri sector contributed far beyond any other sector. The second sector coming is like about 10 points or something behind. So the agri sector is really the area of diversification. Challenges and remedies. Impact of climate change, of course, and I talked about climate smart agriculture. Insecurity. We do have advocacy. We also use the agro rangers, specially trained civil defense personnel to undertake the protection of farmlands across the country. Inflation, yes, there is inflation, but this is a global phenomenon right now. Of course, we are watchful and concerned about our own country. What are we doing? We are making sure that we increase production across the value chains. With more availability, of course, you will have lower prices. It's simple economics of supply and demand. Low mechanization, I spoke about the tractorization through green imperatives and other areas that we are working with. High cost of input, we're also moving towards the production and promotion of organic farming, sustaining the use of high variety of local seeds. And also the issue of low financing, yes, has been a problem, but thank God, Mr. President again just signed the establishment of the National Agricultural Development Fund. This is like the equivalent of TED Fund for tertiary education. We have steady income now. 5% of the wheat and rice levy and 0.5% of the natural resources fund. So at least now, apart from the budgetary allocation every year, this is another source of financing. Of course, we do still work with international organizations that provide grants and sometimes counterpart funding and all of that. The conclusion, the achievement recorded in the sector are attributed to Mr. President's commitment to diversifying economy through agriculture, synergies amongst the public, private sector and partners, which must be sustained to continually grow agriculture, diversify the economy, and ensure food and nutrition security. Thank you. Thank you.
On that note, we come to the end of the program Back to Farm, which focused on the 5th edition of President Muhammadu Buhari's Scorecard, Strides and Achievements in the Nigerian agricultural sector from 2015 to date, under the stewardship of Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abakar as the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. My name is Joshua Ishaya. Thanking you for watching. Stay tuned.